This is the Cubs Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Chicago Cubs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Locked On Cubs Postcast here on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. Joe George here with you as always on all social media platforms at Joe George Radio. And the Cubs get the win 8-1, led by Crow-Armstrong, 3 for 4 on the day, a walk as well. And Colin Rea was good for his third straight start. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel and find us anywhere on your podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, to find the audio version of the show as well. Plus, we'll get to your comments and questions here in the chat live here on YouTube. All right, we will start today's show off with our Locked On Player of the Game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
All right, I was going to go with Crow-Armstrong here, but I want to talk about Colin Rea actually to start the show today. Colin Rea in this one, 7 innings, 3 hits, 5 strikeouts, and 2 walks. Only 1 earned run allowed today. That made me feel very old. Cody Clemens, the son of Roger Clemens, hit the home run today for the Twins. But Colin Rea over his last 3 starts has been really good, and today was another example of that. And plus, look, the Cubs lineup until this game, the last 2 games, had obviously struggled as the Cubs were trying to avoid getting swept. So a good start felt needed from Colin Rea today to avoid getting the sweep. You haven't seen the production from the offense, 2 straight games. So going into this game, it felt very important to get a quality start, even if it wasn't an actual quality start, but a good start from Colin Rea. And that's what he did. 7 innings pitched again, 5 strikeouts, his longest start of the season. But if you look at his last 3 starts here, okay, against the Astros, a very good baseball team, 5 innings pitched, only 2 earned runs allowed. Against the Cardinals, 6 2/3 on the 4th of July, only 1 earned run allowed. And against the Twins here today, 7 innings pitched, only 1 earned run allowed. So his last 3 starts, 4 earned runs total. You could even honestly skip the Mariner start, which he gave up 7. But the start before that, he gave up 2 earned runs against the Pirates. And honestly, I think Colin Rea, it feels like he gets inflated by these big-time starts that are a struggle. And it really compounds, it feels like, for him in a big way when he does give up runs. For the most part, he's good. It's just when it goes bad, it goes very, very bad for Colin. So good start for him today. So that's why, for me, he is our locked-on player of the game. All right, let's talk about Crow-Armstrong, what we saw from the lineup today. PCA, 2 home runs. Did not have a hit coming into this game in this series because 3 for 4. The hit there at the end that was a single forces Bader to rush, who slips. That turns into a double. Also a good at-bat in which he had a walk today. So that was a positive thing to see from PCA because it was a struggle. It was a struggle for the lineup the first 2 games of this series for sure. But PCA comes out in this one, 2 home runs, a double, a walk. Very, very positive day. Now look, it's not all or nothing, right? For the lineup. It's not all on Kyle Tucker and all on Crow-Armstrong in this one. Kyle Tucker only had 1 hit today. It was a good hit. It was a double in this one. But it was Crow-Armstrong, Michael Busch, Dansby Swanson, Nico Hoerner, who were the guys that are out there and able to get this thing done for the Cubs lineup today. And that's what the Cubs need. They need production from everybody on a more consistent basis. And what I like about the game today was it wasn't just the home run ball that we have kind of become accustomed to for the Cubs a lot this year, where it's been a lot of home runs. Today we saw a lot of small ball, guys moving station to station, Dansby Swanson, Michael Busch, Nico Hoerner, bringing guys home. All of that felt just good to see from the Cubs after what we saw from the last 2 days. So overall, very positive, much better vibes, and hopefully a way to end the season, the series, in which can be a way to move things forward. Now, there are negatives with this game, and a lot of questions here in the chat. We'll get to one right away here from Cubs0209 here on YouTube. Is there a discussion to be had about moving Happ out of the leadoff spot? We talked about it a little bit yesterday. I thought more about it, and not to take away from the win today, but he does go 0 for 5 on the day. Yes, 0 for 5 on the day with a strikeout. So Ian Happ, the conversation on moving him out of the leadoff, this is where I think it really happens, okay? You're not obviously doing this the next 3 days, but going to play the New York Yankees. You got the All-Star break coming up. if there's going to be a real conversation had, I think, internally about Ian Happ moving down in the order, it's what production do you get out of him coming out of the All-Star break? That's the key. They're not going to do it right now. They are not going to do this right before the break. They are going to see how this series plays out, and they're going to see how he performs coming out of the break. Whatever issues Ian Happ is having this year that, again, were shown today being 0 for 5 against the Twins, in which pretty much everyone else is having success in the lineup. If these struggles continue in the post All-Star break part of the season, that's where I think you still see a much larger conversation, maybe an internal change, that what I think would be a Nico Horner and Ian Happ flip in the lineup right now would be the most logical thing to do. But look, we even see like Dansby Swanson has, hopefully the last 2 games with, having guys and runners in scoring position, getting guys home is a positive sign for him. We'll see what happens to Ian Happ with the All-Star break. Look, we all know as baseball fans that coming out of the All-Star break, we see players change dramatically. Some for the good, some for the worse. I mean, we've seen guys go in and have all-star, great seasons. They come out in the second half and they're duds. They don't have the same level of performance. Like an extreme example of this, but like Cal Raleigh has hit 37 home runs or whatever it is in the All-Star break, up to the All-Star break. He's not going to hit another 37 coming out the other side of this thing. So Ian Happ, can he take this break, these days off? Can he get back on track and be the player that you expect him to be? Because the reality is he is well below expectations this year. He has not been good for the Cubs. There's no other way to cut it. So if you're going to have a conversation about Ian Happ, I think it starts after the All-Star break, obviously with only 3 games left to go. You could have had it before. They didn't. But I think you have to have a serious conversation about Ian Happ this season if this continues after the break. So hard to take away from today's game. Obviously, a lot of positives, but still, I think hollow was one way I saw in the chat that it was described, this win today, how it feels. I get that. I get that feeling a little bit too, where it's like it's a lackluster win in a way because, a team that has struggled to pitch this year and the Twins to come out there and perform the way they did the first 2 games of this series, the lineup is obviously largely disappointing. So, I think hollow is a fair way to put it. But overall, at least you got the win today. At least you got the win today, and you're not going into the Yankees series, going into the weekend with only a 1-game lead against the Milwaukee Brewers in your division. All right, we'll talk about what else we saw in this game. Some great defensive plays, more from the lineup in this one as well, and plus your questions and comments here in the chat. All coming up next here on the Locked On Cubs postcast on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes all of that possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. I even forgot about this. The 4th of July, a good friend of mine from work here was in Chicago, and he used Gametime. I was showing him where to go and where not to sit at Wrigley Field, and was able to use the seat view on Gametime so he could get the best tickets in the house. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Today's show is also brought to you by OpenPhone. If you're running a business and you know that every missed call is money left on the table, think about the last time you had a service emergency, like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, did you wait? No, you called the next one. And that's why having a reliable business line is so important. And that's why you need OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer. Your entire team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. So no more wondering who's handling this. OpenPhone is offering Locked On MLB listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. That's OpenPhone.com/LockedOnMLB. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. All right, questions and comments here in the chat. O'Reilly says maybe Happ can recharge himself after the All-Star game. Yeah, I think that's what everyone is kind of hoping for here, just to see a better performance from him coming out of the break. Because again, I do think from a big picture perspective that it's really challenging to have a 224 hitter as your leadoff guy, and that's why I do think eventually you'll see a change if things continue the way they were. But with the injury, maybe just hasn't really got back. I'm assuming he's fully healthy at this point. He moves in the outfield, obviously, like he's fully healthy. So I think the long term is just that. But, sorry, a couple other things from the game today. Dansby Swanson hit with runners in scoring position and the double early in the game. Nico Horner with a hit with runners in scoring position, and Michael Busch as well. So all those were also very positive. Not just the home run ball from PCA. I've said this a ton. I do feel like the biggest difference between the Cubs at the beginning of the season and where they are now, the good and the bad, is what we've seen in the box and at first base. Is that, look, I don't look at all the numbers, but I can tell you it feels like they walk so much less than they did at the beginning part of the season. And they are not stealing bags, that's for sure, as much as they were earlier in the season. That's one thing I hope coming out of the All-Star break is the patience and then the aggression on the base path is something we see more. Like you think back to the first game of this Twins series. They were swinging at the first pitch of everything. Now, maybe on Woods Richardson, they felt like they had a read on him and they just didn't execute it properly. But this game, having the small ball there was a huge positive sign. Just after the last 2 days, like you have to get back to the simple things. I think when you struggle the way they did in the first 2 games, because it wasn't just the guys with runners left in scoring position. I think it was 1 for 9 coming into the game. The 9 is the problem, is that they had opportunities, minimal, but they didn't convert them. But they also didn't have a lot of opportunities. And that's the realistic reason why the Cubs lost this series is because of that. When they had opportunities in the first 2 games, they didn't take advantage. And then also, they just didn't have enough opportunities. They did not get on base enough in this series. And I think specifically the first game of the series, you saw the over-aggression from the lineup, attacking the first pitch of pretty much every at-bat, it feels like. That's really where the Cubs lost this one. So you got one final series coming up against the New York Yankees before the break. You got your best guys, for the most part, on the mound. It's not a must-win series, but what I would say is a must for vibes, for positive thoughts for Cubs fans, is I really want to see the Cubs at least get to the All-Star break with this division lead. Then the issues that we've been talking about over the last, month, because face it, they've been brutal. If you look at the numbers with runners in scoring position, they've been tough. That can rebound and this team can get really, really going again after the All-Star break. Just be in first place by the end of the weekend. That's my ask. So 2 out of 3 at a minimum. Find a way to still have the division lead this weekend. Obviously, that means you need some help with whoever Milwaukee's playing right now, but just got to keep going out there, and hopefully we can see the Cubs really get this thing going. And again, not dependent on one guy, but I do think it really starts with Ian Happ at the top, because Kyle Tucker is doing his job. Like, while Kyle Tucker was 1 for 5 in this game, if you look at this series, Kyle Tucker got on plate, got to first base or more on almost 50% of his at-bats. He was on base all the time. Didn't have big run production, didn't have a lot of guys in front of him. He got guys out there, and he did his job this entire series. Really, the only day was not today, by going out there and getting guys on base. Suzuki's done his job. PCA's done his job. The first 2 games of the series was tough, obviously. But you just got to, if Ian Happ can be the one that really can turn this thing around, his season, that's where I feel like overall things can be much, much more positive for the Cubs. Rob says, can't keep trotting Shaw out there, must make a trade for somebody. I'm 50-50 on this one. I think I've made that pretty clear. We'll see what happens. He's played great defense. He's the Cubs' best option. I would like them to go out there and acquire a third baseman if it's a reasonable deal, especially if you can keep Matt Shaw in the system somehow and keep him in the minors. I'd be fine with that. Or if it's someone that has club control. A lot of questions about Cabrera from the Marlins as well. I think it is possible to get him. You're giving up prospects that I don't frankly want to trade at this point. And honestly, it wouldn't shock me if the Cubs do have that player in place when they return from the All-Star break. That would be nice to see, honestly. That would be the other thing. Coming out of the break, Sunday will be our last show for 5 days or whatever it is. Coming out of the break with a new player on the team, a nice little shiny new toy, whether it's pitcher, third baseman, or something, would be a lovely thing to see for the Cubs front office too. All right, so the Cubs salvaged the last game of the series. They don't get swept, and they win 8-1. That will do it for this episode of the Locked On Cubs postcast. Remember, hit that subscribe button here on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple and Spotify as well. And Matt and Sam will have their show coming up later today as well. So thanks for watching. We'll be back with you tomorrow night after Game 1 of the Cubs and Yankees series. Thanks for watching. Peace.